All right, so I believe we're like in week 4 now, which is amazing in itself. Week 3, week 4, and we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot, and there's still so much more to cover. And I know this past week it was so jam-packed with really understanding who you are, why you're qualified to get paid to show up in the world in the way that you have this vision for through your business, and serving others through your practice, whatever that might look like, part-time, full-time, transitioning slowly, ramping up big. Like, this is where you get to control how you really deploy your gift, and skill and education. And so let's hear from you, Carl. What came up for you over the past week, based on any of the work that you've been doing, the thoughts that you're having about your practice? Please feel free to share out.
Well, hello and thank you.
Hello.
Uh, a a lot of soul searching, a lot of thoughts about, what I bring to, I guess, as far as value, and I've thought about the different roles that I've worked in. I've thought about the volunteering that I've done, um, where I've spoken to church groups, where I've spoken to students, student athletes actually, and at a college here in Raleigh.
Okay.
I've done quite a bit of things, very varied, um, and I know that the focus of this course has been on financial coaching and counseling, which is going to comprise a part of what I'm setting myself up to do. But the other part is going to be the planning uh, aspect of it, which is similar but different. Um, there are a lot of commonalities. The thing that I am hoping to be able to do, and I know since you've attended some of the AFCPE conferences, you know that bridging the gap between counseling and planning is one of the big uh, objectives. I won't say hurdles, but one of the big objectives that this industry has yet to make fully in terms of how it's practiced.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you just a little bit of what I've been working on professionally is just that trying to synergize or synchronize the work I've been doing on the financial counseling, and I've rebranded it, repurposed it, um, and these are the kinds of things that I have been giving away for free that I would choose not to want to continue to give away for free. These are my ideas. And what invariably happens is when I give them to someone who doesn't share that vision, they tend to rework it uh, in a way that they can understand, for lack of a better, analysis. So I'm really thinking, if I'm in my practice, and I have no barriers and I have no restrictions, what would that look like?
Right.
And so that ties into some of the work that I've been doing as far as marketing, as far as demographics and psychographics and all that stuff, and trying to figure out um, how to convey that message, how to convey the message that there is value in both the planning and and the counseling, which I have kind of redefined as more of an empowering or empowerment, uh,
Okay.
exercise, building financial capabilities, because many people aren't ready to do planning who actually jump in and start doing financial planning. I want to catch those people, who want to move forward but aren't ready yet to move forward. And as you know, um, creating a spending plan, or creating a way for them to manage their income, manage
Mhm.
their debt. Those are things that even people who have lots of resources have issues with. So it's not defined or confined by income in terms
Mhm.
of counseling and coaching,
Mhm.
which I think is one of the misconceptions people have when it comes to financial coaching and counseling. They think that we're only working with people who don't have means and resources.
Right.
I've been working on trying to craft my message and how I convey that message to that broader audience of both the people who aren't yet ready for planning, who need counseling, as well as those who are in a position to be forward thinking and long term from a strategic standpoint. They too need um, basic financial guidance when it comes to personal finance. So, so in addition to that, because I'm licensed and because I cannot operate a business at the same time that I am working for my organization, my transition is going to have to be uh, cut and start. It's going to have to be you know, a 90-degree change in direction. And that for me is the challenge because I'm going to have to hit the ground running from the beginning. So who do I know to market to? Who do I have in terms of my hopper and my pipeline and all that kind of stuff? Um, I would say not a lot because, well, I'm not going to use the people or target the people who are right now in my sites, who are right now in my, I think ethically, uh, that's problematic. And I don't think I need to do that because I think that there are enough people out there who need the help.
Right.
And there are people that my organization hasn't effectively reached out to, and I know who they are. So that's going to be part of my focus. So I've been narrowing down really about three different groups of people. Uh, one, well, first of all, this is a broad because this is a large demographic, but those who are in that millennial age group, um, and believe it or not, I believe that that group is hungry for guidance. I think they are misunderstood often when it comes to finance and work. They've been forced to grow up and live in an environment where jobs are not stable, where upward mobility and even security has to be has to be taken in terms of you moving from one company to another. And no longer can they rely on working for 20 or 30 or 40 years for one company. So the transient nature of their work environment is one where I think is misunderstood as if they somehow are irresponsible or somehow not committed. I've worked with so many and I found that's not the case. And
Right.
they're willing to pay for the help, but they work in a different way. They don't want to come in and spend an hour in your office talking about their life. Uh, I found that they more likely like to operate in terms of a quick burst of yeah, let's connect, let's talk about you know one particular aspect of it, and then we can get back together and work on the next. Um, Sort of compartmentalizing or breaking it down into digestible, manageable pieces, as opposed to
Yes.
just coming in and being exhausted by and overwhelmed by something that maybe they haven't been exposed to. Anyway, another group would be those who are looking for help in creating income distribution strategies.
Okay.
We have people who uh, first of all, the industry is focused on building wealth. Industry has not yet made the transition to focusing on the distribution of wealth, aside from um, annuity solutions.
Right.
And of course, those can be fraught with um, issues. I'll
Right.
just leave it at that. I'm not going to disparage the industry, but you work, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to annuity practices.
Yeah.
But there are income distribution strategies that I know and with the appropriate software can make a huge difference in the lives of people in terms of sustainability of income, in
Okay.
terms of minimizing taxation, and in many cases saving a significant amount of money when it comes to that and reducing what they pay as far as uh, paying Medicare premiums and the like. So there's a lot of advantages that can be gained from just a systematic strategy. And then lastly, households, families, and then that's a huge market or broad area, not very well defined. Um, but really just the basic planning when it comes to um, bringing together some organization around what their needs are and designing or helping them create a path that they can see uh, you know themselves becoming secure and successful. Anyway, those are some of the things I've been thinking about. Of course,
Mhm.
calculating what the cost is going to be and all that. So it's been a lot, over the past week or two,
Mhm.
and I do believe that there's significant value in being very detailed in the analysis and that you've kind of laid out, and that's where I'm trying to focus. But I could be honest and say this, that my mind begins to now jump from the details to, okay, if I'm networking, what's my what's my elevator pitch, what's this and that. I'm thinking about all these different things. I can go on and on and on, but those are some of the things that I've been thinking about and working on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everything in divine order. One question that came up for me was, have you already started this week's lesson?
Maybe,
Okay.
probably
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, did he take a look at what just got released for this week? Because we're literally talking
Right.
about the two most profitable ideal clients.
Yeah.
And so as you're talking about your markets, I'm like, okay, well, that's a perfect segue into what this week's focus is going to be on. So everything in divine order that, the curriculum supports where you are. Um, but to that point, I think you hit the nail on the head with it's a lot all the time. And that's not going to change. And part of the training here, yes, we meet once a week, an hour a week, and then that's that. But there's a discipline of every week you're focusing on your business. I don't care what you're doing, you're thinking about it, and all these thoughts are generating more thoughts that will then drive action. And just getting into the training of spending time in business mode is a training in itself. And to your point, like, okay, well, my transition is going to look like this. That's very real. It's a very real consideration of what your transition is going to be like. And if it is that hard stop on this and a break and then a full start on that, of course there are implications, right? So you got to think about your own financial security and stability. You've got to think about how you're going to manage your time, which is a huge transition. When you're coming from 8 hours of structure, now you got to create that 8 hours for yourself and what that looks like, and then knowing the right activities to do to make this machine drive the same way that machine drove. So you're in the right place. Like, all of this coming is a result of you beginning the journey. And so I encourage you to stay committed to what comes to you, because part of what I think I'm learning as an entrepreneur in this space in particular is that there isn't much business development around what we do, because the industry itself doesn't even know how to value what we do. And as you mentioned, there is this gap between the coaching, counseling, and education and the planning, advising, and investment management. And I am literally in a space of my practice right now where both of those worlds are colliding, because I'm transitioning back to wealth management. I'm transitioning back to that, but not dropping my financial coaching practice. I'm keeping it. So now I'm developing this model where I do it all. You come in, and wherever you are, I should be able to meet you, and my team will be able to meet you, whether you need the education, coaching, and counseling, or you're ready because you have assets of some sort. You're ready for the planning, the advising, and the investment management. And I think that's going to be a model that we're going to start to see more of. Similar, you're CFP, AFC, and a whole bunch more. I'm literally going to be a CFP probably by the end of next year. So I too will have that dual designation. And I think, again, we're going to be in demand because we have both skill sets. And so being independent will allow us to figure it out, how you want to serve, because you're developing a model that you've never worked before. So let's always remember that we're testing everything. I mean, I'm 15 years in of being an entrepreneur, and or 10 years in of being an entrepreneur, 17 years of being in the industry, and everything has been a test. I mean, I feel like I'm behind because I've been doing this so long. So you feel like you should be further along than you are. But I will encourage you that that feeling will never go away. And that's why I try to focus on, in our work specifically, your purpose, your divine order, how you want to show up, because I believe it's our gifts that really impact our wealth. I did a post recently, did a video, I'll be releasing it, but it was based on a sermon I listened to and a mentor I follow, Dr. Miles Monroe. And he's always promoting entrepreneurship connected to our gifts, especially in a time like now where we see our clients are out of jobs, out of work, decreased income, waiting and waiting for stimulus, just waiting. And I think to myself, what if my client knew that the income they're seeking is within them?
Mm.
And who in the industry is promoting that as an income stream development strategy? To tell your client to go inward rather than saying, well, Mr. Jones, I think you're going to need to find a job that's paying you more. That's one talk track. You're going to find you need more income if you want to increase, hit these goals. We got to find more to put away. Okay, great. That's the reality. But how do you help your client do that? Now they leave your financial office, and where do they go to figure that part out? Unemployment, temp agency, job boards, looking for, but who's teaching and coaching around your gifts are inside, your gifts are we're going to lead to your income. And so for me, it becomes your time is tied to your purpose. Your purpose is tied to your service. Your service is tied to your value, and your value is tied to your income. And if I can help clients get those 5 things right, then I think I can help them create a sustainable income for the rest of their lives, whether they work a job or not. And it's never to diss a job. We all need jobs at some point for some training. But to help my client realize that right now, while they're in this devastating financial space from whoever that might be, because other people are thriving and prospering right now. And so it's never a bad economy. It's just, what side of it are you on? And a lot of our clients find themselves on the side where they're waiting for things to happen. And it's those people that I think I want to mobilize and energize. Whereas those people who have the assets, what they're missing, in my opinion, is that coaching, counseling, and education around the behaviors they have. They feel, I have money and I'm paying you to manage it. I'm out of the picture. And so, to your point, as we look at different segments, as we look at different markets that we want to serve, each market is going to come with its own set of barriers. And if you can identify what those barriers are for the markets you want to serve, and not just, like you said, financial barriers, it's not just I have money and I don't. It's your demographic, it's your psychographic, it's how does this person think about money? How do they buy? What is their spending behavior? How do they make financial decisions? Who makes financial decisions? What financial trainings have they had to even be able to receive your message? When they see you, what do they think? I used to teach my workshops. I would always start by saying, when I say the word money, tells me what comes up for you. And people would say all kinds of things. And I would say that includes feelings. When you hear the word money, what, and some people say stress, not enough, don't like it. And so now we get to the core of, all right, this is who you are financially. And if I'm going to help you with your finances, I've got to understand who you are financially. What is your blueprint? What has your behavior been like? those things is what's going to drive you to create the perfect messaging. Because if I am the person who doesn't like to budget, I'm all into technological apps to help me manage my money. I may invest through Robinhood. I've never worked with a professional outside of my tax or insurance person. I never seek financial support. It just kind of comes to me through an ad, through word of mouth. I see a post, but I don't actively seek it out. When I buy, I have to get tons of information before I actually commit. I'm not easy to commit. You know, I tend to abandon the cart. You know, I'll go through something, I'll get ready to buy it, and then I'll back off. And now that thing is just sitting there. These are the behaviors of the clients we serve that we need to know so we know how to message to them. Because your messaging, and our clients will tell us, our prospects will tell us what their pain points are. So if we can take their language and put it into our messaging, literally verbatim, which I have done, I have created sales from using surveys and evaluations from previous people I've worked with who said, you know, I don't like it when I feel overwhelmed when it's time for me to purchase something. I don't like to be pressured into sales or feel like someone's pressuring me into buying something. So in marketing, I'm going to market to that person by saying that exact language. No pressure sales, or, you know, no pressure around getting your financial life in order. They want to hear that because that's what their barrier is. That's how they get down. So if they like, oh, you're hitting my pain points, you're reaching me with the language that makes me feel better about even engaging you. We ain't even talking about your offer, your services, your pricing. They haven't got that far. They haven't clicked on anything. You're just trying to get in front of them with a flyer, email, a card, a message. That messaging is so important to who they are, not what we want them to know. And so this next section in our curriculum is going to help you begin to break down even more who that market is and then how to reach them. What does it mean to reach this market you want to serve based on who they are? Because again, we get very selfish in our practices and our businesses. Yes, it's about us, but we have to remember we're here to serve. So the marketing is not what we like to market. It took me a long time to realize that. Sometimes I am my client and sometimes I am not. And so in those times when you've got to do that research and figure out everything you can about who you're serving, that is going to make it more real. And then you take it from this big market and you go more and more niche every time you get more information until you're able to literally call that person by name. So now you've identified your potential client, whether it's an institution and company or it's an individual person. You can now say, you know, Mark Williams, age 45, 9 to 5 making this amount. So those are all of his demographics. Loves his family, does everything he can for everyone but himself, hard worker, tends to spend his weekends doing X, Y, and Z, loves sports, but not very interested in politics, doesn't, you know, when you get to define that person by behavior, now we know how to reach them, because guess what? Behaviorally, they're probably putting money in these areas too. We pay for what we value. So if we can identify what our clients' values are, you know, and again, our businesses help us do that, because if my values are similar to yours, I'm more inclined to work with you, which is why this past week was important to go through mission, vision. What are your values? What do you believe in? Because we're in a personal business. People pay for you. Your brand is your brand, but you're selling them you. And so as we explore bringing all these things together for the purpose of pushing the business, being profitable in our business, I don't want you to take for granted these steps, these little exercises, these pieces of work, because again, a lot of this work, whatever comes out of it, this will be the copy for your website. This will be the things that you develop as client facing material, and client facing collateral. And again, this came up in my mastermind group. I have a mastermind group for financial educators, counselors, and coaches. And we've been pushing a member of ours to like just put herself out there. She's just overwhelmed. She teaches, she's a parent. Her and her husband have properties, so she got a lot going on, like most of us though. Like that's never gonna change, and that's not unique. So she had a few people asking her to work with them, and she was not ready. And I'm like, girl, you got the people coming to you before you even have the business. Like, let's go. So she made some calls, she scheduled them. One person bit the bait, set up the appointment. She had the appointment. And then they asked her, well, do you have anything you can send me? Do you have a website? And she's like, I don't have anything. And I said, well, listen, this is easy. You don't need the website right away, but realize you need the website because we're in a virtual world now, especially that's how you're going to be found. But and that's just one more thing for her. So she's like, oh, now I need a website. Nope, this isn't meant to overwhelm you. Write everything down in a Word doc. Put your offer in a Word doc, put your picture in a Word doc, put your bio in a Word doc, create a 2-pager, make it into a PDF, and send that out to every prospect before you talk to them. So now they have information about who you are, your experience, your offers, your style, whatever you want them to know, or they tend to ask every time you meet with them and you don't have the site up yet. Create a brochure, create a PDF where you can send to people about who you are and what you do. And what that does is you don't have to have all these things to do the business. You just need to know what you want people to know. I think especially in our industry, on the advising and investing side, where it's highly regulated and our marketing is regulated and what we say and put out is regulated once you're licensed, it becomes even more important to know what you can give to people right away for them to connect with you. And a part of that is going to be knowing who you're connecting with. So we can't afford to not put time into really identifying. And to your point of earlier about, not using none of your current clients and the conflicts that may present. It's 7 billion people in the world. I have to always remind myself of this. Dominique, if you can't close one person out of 7 billion, come on now. So I say it's so extreme so we know the people are there. We don't have to create them. And in our industry, people are born every day. They're going to grow up. They're going to need financial support. It's a revolving door of customers through the lifetime of our practice. So going back to fear, which we talked about the first week, fears tend to come up when we're like, who's going to buy? There's nobody who's going to want what I have. What evidence suggests there's nobody who's going to want what you have? The evidence that we have to suggest otherwise is that the census, which comes out every 10 years, tells us how many people are in this bracket or in this neighborhood, have these barriers. The census document itself is a marketing document that we could use to decide who we want to target. Well, I want to target people from this region in this income level with this household size. That's beautiful. That's gold right there. So again, as fear come up around who's going to buy and who am I going to reach? Nobody's going to do this. Nobody would purchase this package. The census is evidence to suggest otherwise. The article I just sent out that shows all these stats of who's doing well and who's not, and who's saving and who's not, that suggests otherwise. The people are there. So if we can then, in that step, break that fear, okay, let me shift my mind. That just got me caught up for a second. The people are there. I have to find the people based on my messaging, because my messaging is what's going to make them say, oh, let me read this. Oh, let me click on that. And that is based on how much we know about them. So this week, in figuring out, how to reach these people, because they're there. The hard part is done. They're there. We just have to figure that out. And that's what you'll explore this week. You're going to explore the two most profitable types of clients that I've experienced working with, which are individual clients and institutional clients. Okay, that's obvious. Well, for some people, it's not. So I've had to put it this way. And then we break it down. We break it down by saying, well, what kinds of individual clients are there? I'm thinking about doing a graphic around this just to really break it down, because all of these could be broken down into so many more. Students, military, veterans, homeless, unemployed, low income. And then they say, well, why would you want to work with those people? They don't have money. I got the key to that. There's a solution. It's not what you think. And sometimes it is, but it's not those people that's going to be paying us. Students, military, veterans, homeless, unemployed, low income, they're not going to be paying us. The organizations that serve them are going to be paying us. So now that turns to the institutional clients. So that's what I mean by that. My institutional clients, the nonprofits, the county departments, other small businesses, they're the ones with the budgets that will pay us to work with the people who don't have the money. Now, when we start talking about women, professionals, business owners, coaches, counselors, consultants, high net worth, athletes, recruiters, celebrities, executives, bankers, because believe it or not, people in our industry still need financial help. You would be surprised at who did I pitch? I'm trying to think of the firm. Gosh, this was so long ago. I think it was Mass Mutual, Mass Mutual or Northwestern Mutual, one of the mutuals. They, I'm like, they have the Black diversity group, right? The employee ERGs, employee resource groups, and the Black one, the Asian one, the Hispanic one, right? Diversity. So then they call me in, the Black group called me in to do some presentation on something. I can't even remember. And it made me think, wait a second, y'all work at a financial firm, yet y'all finances are so screwed. And you don't even make enough to work with an advisor from your firm. And the firm doesn't have an education portal for you as an employee to improve your finances. And this was years ago. And I don't think our industry necessarily has caught up to that. So you could focus specifically on financial professionals who work in the industry, but are back office workers, are support workers. They need our help too. Leaders, politicians, academics, others. I mean, if we brainstorm just a few of these categories and then broke them down based on their demographics, income, region, age, household status, marital status, profession, or more like role or title, each one of these could be broken down based on that criterion. And the more detailed you go, the more you can see the market opportunity. Okay, well, there are 20 million Black women in the world. Just throwing it out there. Okay, well, they're all not the same. So what kind of Black woman you want to work with? What kind of this person do you want to work with? What kind? Because it gets more and more detailed every level at which you go. And so this is our goal. This is our opportunity to really put effort into this, because it's an exercise. It's going to take some time, and you will constantly refine this. It's not a one-time deal. I'm several years in my practice. I still refine this because I'm shifting, I'm growing, and I don't work with who I used to work with. And I'm actually in a space of thinking I'm about to drop the one-on-one coaching altogether, because my time's more valuable than the market can pay me for. And I'm just kind of not into it as much. I want to do more. I want to do more of the wealth management piece because I'm meeting more people who have a little bit of assets. But what about the people who don't? I got programs for that. I'm building a team for that. I'm building a network for that. I'm going to need somebody to refer those people to. And that's the nature of business. And I believe everything in divine order. If we think about it that way, there's always someone in business who might be serving our market who don't want to serve them no more. And the networking, now everything in divine order, everything has a purpose. When you network and you meet that person, now they know who to refer their clients to. They know you. I'm coming up in this space. I want to work with who you're currently working with. Oh, that's great. We should talk because I no longer want to work with them. I'm shifting in my practice. That happens a lot. And we miss out on those opportunities simply because we're not networking with each other. We tend to think of competition. Competition is real. And as an abundant and as a believer, I know what's for you is for you and what's for me is for me. So you can't take what's from me. I can't take what's for you. So that's going back to mindset and fears. Well, if I network with that person, they might not, we serve the same client. How that's going to work? We say the same market. It will work because you don't serve the same market. That you just did an exercise to show you exactly who you serve. While they may have similar needs, you know something about who you serve that's very similar to who they serve, but it is not the exact same because you're identifying things that that person might not have identified. You might be trying to overcome barriers with that market that they weren't even in the know about those barriers. So we've got to create an abundant mindset around who we serve so that we're not conditioning ourselves to think the crab mentality. Well, if I network with that person and they take this client, or when will they ever refer me a client? Referrals don't work that way anyway. I had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn. I just connected with her, but now she's trying to set up a call for me to buy a house. Well, I don't know you. And if I was looking for a house, then great, but I'm not looking, and I don't want to talk to you about my housing goals. I simply want to talk to you about what you do and how you do it, so you're in my network. That's networking. But we lead with the sale, that's a turnoff for some of us. And we got to remember our clients work that way too. So when we're in the mode of thinking, how am I gonna make this business work? Who am I gonna serve? And can they afford it? And they will afford you based off of the value you create for them. The value you create for them is tied to the service that you give them. The service you give them is tied to your purpose. So it's not about them. I want you to focus on you in defining you through the business. Because your purpose in starting the business is to fulfill some greater vision that you had. So we still ain't even got to them yet. We're in our journey. And it's through this practice that we're going to serve the people we want to serve based off of the purpose and vision given to us. So these exercises are going to help you identify who these people are. Here you have the demographics, the typical things that we know to do the market research around. But what I realized in our industry, it is psychographics. It's all about the psychographic. And what is that? Well, that's the attitudinal or behavioral characteristics of our market. Oh, give me 1 second. Computer's gonna die. Sorry about that. Okay, let me pull that back up, what I was sharing. Oh, here it is. Okay. So those psychographics are so important. And to help you understand how to identify psychographics of your market, you're going to ask yourself questions like this about them. What do they believe in? What makes them buy? What do they read or listen to? Where do they hang out? What are some of their favorite shows? What social media platforms are they on? If they're on social media, because if you're trying to serve baby boomers or the boomer generation, some of them are on social media, but a lot of them may not be. So that's important to know where people are not, just as much as knowing where they are. What do they strive for or aspire to have? What are the things they can't stand? Do they tend to invest? What is their investing philosophy? What are their weaknesses? And we're talking like as a person. I know when I work with Black women, I found a weakness of Black women is asking for help. So in my messaging, I put that, when it's difficult to ask for help, when you're so used to doing everything on your own and not turning to anyone for help, who do you go to for financial advice? That's how you incorporate this kind of information about your market. You put it directly in your marketing and messaging. What keeps them up at night? Who do they follow or admire? Who do they trust? What financial related problems do they encounter the most? How do they prefer to buy? Online, in person, through an app? Some people still use money orders for stuff. So, to the extent that you want to know everything about them, do they take that time to go to the bank and make the deposit? Do they trust online banking? These are the psychographics of our market. How do they research professionals to work with? And this is the stuff that, again, I wasn't taught this. I kind of stumbled into it. So what I did, and then I started taking trainings. Marie Forleo, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she's a woman who I didn't know before. I don't know how I came across her, but she started this school called B School. And B School has been wildly successful for probably about at least 7 years now. She's made millions of dollars from B School, and she basically taught us the model for creating online courses and online schools. And then she taught you how to do it. And she introduced me to this concept of psychographics and your ideal client avatar and how to identify your ideal client and why that was so important. And so I'm like, okay, I went through the exercises, and you give your ideal client a name, and you give her an age, and you give them life. You literally think about the person as if they're standing right in front of you. So how do you figure out who that is? Well, one place to start is to go and think about the clients you're currently serving. And if these are the people you want to continue to serve in terms of their demographic and psychographic, think about the last client you worked with or the last several clients and answer such questions about them. What is his or her name? How old? Where do they reside? Are they married? What do they do for a living? Why are they coming to see you? What is their strength and weakness? Their values, their learning style, aspirations they have. And at the end of it, you're going to create a person, and that's the avatar. And if this is the client, ideally, that you would like to serve, now you have a profile that you can literally like market to every time you create something. Is this something Mark would buy? Who's Mark? Mark is that ideal client profile I put together because that's the ideal client I want to serve. So does this match Mark? And then you start to use that ideal client profile on a name basis, like they're a real person, which technically they were. If you thought about your last client, you just gave them a new name. So this exercise will help you figure out who these ideal clients are. And you may have several, and that's okay. Because you may have a woman profile, a man profile, you might have a household profile, you might have a couple profile. You will have several profiles. But think of the first one. Don't get overwhelmed by all of them, just one or two of them. Then marketing to that person. And in this age, I'll probably refresh this part of the course, because in this digital world, I'm finding marketing is shifting a bit. But I give you some understanding around the marketing piece, and it's traditional stuff, the speaking, the networking, the social media, associations, flyers, ads, radio, TV, whatever you can afford to put a budget around. And then if you can't afford to put a budget, these things can be free as well. It's just strategy. It's taking on speaking gigs that are not paid are great. Well, they're not paid though, Dominique. Why is that great? Because I have a book and I could sell that book. And that book is also a marketing tool. So you think of marketing in the traditional ways as well as the non-traditional ways. But are we just pulling things? No, we're not pulling things. These are some of all of the things that you could do. So how do you know which one to do? Based on the client avatar you create. Based on what you've learned about this person you want to market to, how are they telling you to market to them? Are they on social media? Are they reading a certain magazine or online magazine? It's like for Black women, they read Essence. They go to the Essence Festival. It would behoove me to get a booth at the Essence Festival. Right? And that's all right offable. So it's a business investment. And that's marketing because I get to show up directly in front of them. So think about that. Where do your people go? Where do they hang out? What associations are they a part of? Who do they follow? Black enterprise is another one because that's Black professionals. So if my ideal client reads Black enterprise, I might want to do two things. I might want to try to get featured in Black enterprise, especially as a financial professional. The feature is worth more than placing the ad, right? But I could do both. So, and why would I do that? Did I just pull Black enterprise out of the sky because I like their magazine? No, it's not about what I like, but I know my client shows up there. So this is the piece around, all right, I know who they are now. Now I've got to do the research on where they are, what they like, what they do. And that's why the psychographics become so important, not just the demographics, because the psychographics are going to help us become their best friend. We've got to learn them and I believe in our industry, knowing our client need before they do is how we start to add value. They know they need a budget, but do they know that that budget is going to help them create their retirement strategy? They might not be linking the two. So you now come in and say, well, I know we're working on your budget, but I really want to start getting you on this retirement strategy because, retirement only needs time. So the sooner we could get on that, the better. But they weren't talking to you about no retirement strategy, but now you've planted the seed. You know what they need. So knowing their need is where we add the value. And if you can get in front of them with what they need now and what they need later, that becomes your messaging. That becomes your marketing. And we use those psychographics to help us identify what those needs are. And then what is this? This is an example document that I created probably about a year or two ago that I use to market my practice. So I wanted to show you a template. And again, I need to send this to Judy because this is the kind of thing you can send out to people before you have a call with them or on the institutional side. And again, this was a Word doc. I put this together and made a PDF. Talks about what I offer, talks about my mission, my vision. I have a video for them to watch. And this was my subcontractor kit. So whenever I would pitch nonprofits, this would be what I would give my point of contact. And then there's my bio. And then what? The problem. So then I'd give like a little deck. Here's the problem. Here's the objective of how I'm going to solve it. And here's the statement of need. Then I kind of break that down into categories: paycheck to paycheck living, no emergency fund, ignorance of products and services, and then good decisions and bad decisions. These were the things I felt like the market I serve, this is where their problems lie, in these specific financial areas. And then I could come in and help with that. But I couched it all in literacy and education. So that was my starting point. And so I put together all these talking points: value created by offering financial literacy to individuals. This is like a Googleable article on financial literacy, if you ask me, but I put it in my subcontractor kit. Then I have all my business info, contact EIN, DUNS number, all the stuff that you can find. It's all findable. And then the roles in my organization, references from people I've worked with. This is my subcontractors kit, and I would use that to market my business. And then I have another one for small business owners. This was a program I put together. I was pitching it to a nonprofit about how I can help them work with their small business owners. And, I think I quoted 15 grand at the time. They didn't bite the bait, but when they did come back to bite the bait, I tripled the price. And all the executive director could say was, "Well done, Dominique." He's like, "Now I really can't do it." I was like, "Well, you should have took the bait, Dr. Burks, when it was 15 grand. Now it's 45, because that's what I'm gonna need to get through." He was like, "All I can say is, well done." He was like, "I'm proud of you," because he also helps me with my business. What is this? This was another document that I had created with my graphic designer. Just an EPK, electronic press kit. You give some of your products, your services, or your signature offers, signature talks, something that people, and these are based on pictures that I took when I was working. So, this is how you start to market what you do. You've got to put this stuff together. So these are some examples that I wanted to share with you so you can get a flavor of just the possibilities of how you can do this for yourself. And then I did one, what's this one for? Pitching for being a speaker. This was one of my speaking pages, just a one-sheeter. So I'm like, I could get this to an event planner. I could get this to somebody who's a conference planner, and hey, book me. Here's what I offer. So that was, again, just some marketing stuff to get your wheels spinning, to get you to see how you can put all of what you offer in different mediums, different collateral, different messaging, in terms of what it looks like. But as you notice, this was the last thing of this section, because what's on those papers, what's in those papers, what's on that marketing tool is all of the stuff you got to do now. You got to figure out the who is going to be reading this. And notice, I think out of those 3 documents, one was for individual, one was for institution, and then one was for like conference planning. Different ways that I can get booked. Those are 3 different income streams through my business. So yes, I have a financial coaching business, but it's a business. So I get to leverage it however I want. I might stop doing coaching and only do speaking through the business. I might stop doing speaking and only do consulting through the business. You get to decide, because you get to say what you offer and who you offer it to. So that's the power of what we're building. It doesn't have to look like anything you've ever seen before. And in this age, at least in my opinion, that is the beauty of where we are right now. That all constructs that were out there, if they're still out there, they will remain. And people are conditioned to have those. But like I shared with someone recently, as a young Black woman who's in her financial journey as well, I don't see myself in none of these firms. They don't market to me. They are not speaking to me. And if they're not speaking to me and I'm a financial professional, I can imagine other women like me with the psychographics that I have, they're not picking up on their messaging either because it's not designed for us. You're not marketing to me. And so that's where us as independents really have the advantage over these big conglomerates, and we know who they are. They don't know how to reach us. We could even go in as a consultant to them on how to reach us, which I've done that as well too, through a curriculum. I got hired to write curriculum that was eventually for the National Urban League. But the National Urban League got a grant through Walmart Foundation. So now they needed to secure someone to write the curriculum. They reached out to this other guy. He found me on LinkedIn. And I knew immediately after talking to him why he wanted to work with me, because I was able to bring cultural sensitivity to the curriculum. Well, who was the curriculum for? Poor Black people that lived in the inner city, poor brown people that lived in the inner city, and they were white people who got the contract. So they're like, well, you know this market. I do know this market. So now you've got to pay me to help you write the curriculum. Another stream of income through my business. Did I set the business up to do that? No, but I'm an expert. I have skill sets, and that's what our businesses will help us do. Bring out all our skill sets, not just the ones that certain people want to pay us for. So this is why it's always overwhelming, because you get to realize more and more, I can really do anything I want. Like the saying is not just the saying anymore. I really can be out here in these streets doing exactly what I want, working with the exact group of people I want to. Why don't other people do it? Because it's a lot involved. It's not easy. It does require work, and everything in divine order. Everyone's in their own journey. So maybe they'll get it when they get it, but you got it. So this walk at this point is gonna be all about the client, who you want to serve, identifying them down to the T, down to the clothes they wear, and who they buy those clothes from. Because I even thought about partnering with Nordstrom's. My mind be going everywhere. I'm like, the professionals I want to work with, they shop at Macy's. Macy's is like, okay, girl, I could go get my stuff from Macy's. I need to partner with Macy's around some financial empowerment. That would be grand, right? So we can do that. We can do that. And our clients don't have to be who we think they are. We could get sponsorships. Like I said, Macy's would gladly sponsor something around a market of women or men that they reach to. They will do it, and they have budgets for it. That CRA, that Community Reinvestment Act, they still have that, and there's money. And our firms can take that. So that's all I got for you this week. This week is, again, jam-packed. It's a lot of exercises in there, but I really want you to focus on your market and try to name them. Give them a name. And if it's an institutional client, give them an organizational name. And if it's a nonprofit or a for-profit that's already in your market, use that as your test. Like, all right, if I can get a gig with this company, if I get a contract with that company, use that as your beacon and look at their characteristics, and then find their competitors. And now you've got a pipeline of 10 prospects that you can hit up with that same proposal and see who bites the bait. And that's the end goal. Of course, you got to do the work now. So that's it for this week. Get through the curriculum at your pace. Use the comment section. I did see that you scheduled your call, so thank you for that. I got them on the calendar. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. WhatsApp, email, and in the modules.
Thank you. That was great.
Okay, any questions before we hop off, or comments about what's coming up for you?
Not really, not really. I
Okay.
was curious about you had a list of um, of people as references. Um, is that something that many organizations you work with will have asked for, or and do they? I mean, how important is that for them?
Great question. It can go several ways, but in my experience, what has happened, they have not asked. And when that was asked, it was for like doing business with the county, doing business with the city or the state. And that's just a normal part of their application. They want a reference or two. So I was like, well, listen, I'll just put it in my kit. That way you have it. And because I've informed the people that they're references, now they're just on the know at any time. If somebody reach out to them about me, they're willing to have that conversation. And it just looks good. Like, listen, I got references and you don't have to ask. Here they
Right.
are.
Right. You're kind of proactively preempting the request.
Right.
Gotcha.
And the sale, because I
Right.
know how good I am, right?
Right.
So give them all you got. Like, who you
Yeah.
want to talk to? You want to talk to a previous client? Okay, I got that on deck for you. Already here. It makes it easier for people to say yes.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, I hadn't thought about the references, and but I can see where that would have some value, just having it on there.
Mm-hmm. And just having them ready, from
Yeah.
individual clients to your recommendations. Like, I started to give, when I knew I was leaving somewhere, I started
Hmm.
to get recommendations, just letters of recommendations, people speaking well about me, whether it's my skill set, about my client. Like, and when you give these recommendations or the requests, let people know what you want them to write about. Hey, John,
Yeah.
I really would like for you to write a recommendation for me based on my teamwork, or
Yeah.
based on my ability to lead or problem solve. Give really specific. And now you got a collection of things that you could just be like, especially it's good when you're dripping on somebody
Hmm.
and you're like, the program manager or the executive director of somewhere, and you're like, hey, John, I wanted to reach out to you. I just recently had this colleague of mine write a recommendation. I just wanted to share it with you, let you know the kind of work that I'm capable of doing and how I can service your organization as well. Proactive, stand in front. And guess what? When they're ready with the budget, the last person they heard of was from you.
Right.
You were the,
Right.
versus them having to go find a company. Oh, Dominique just reached out to me. Let me see if she's interested in this project. And that's how
Yeah.
they think, as if we're not going to be interested. I've gotten calls like that. Hey, I've got a $1,400 budget. I know it's not a lot, but I just wanted to see if you were interested. Yes, I'll take that 1,400. You're going to give it to somebody. Why not give it to me?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has literally worked.
Yeah. One last thing,
Mm-hmm.
when you talked about Macy's, that example, um, actually, when I was at Merrill, I was I participated with another colleague in what was called a fashion and finance event, and we had some employees from the firm as well as some of our clients
Okay.
who participated in wearing the new season's fashions for, I think it was Belk here, and we had a
Okay.
runway set up, and it went over very well. The company loved it, the store loved it, and the clients were extremely complimented by it, and they told everybody about it, and so it just kind of opened up opportunities that we did not foresee. So yeah, there's opportunities. However you want to follow and be creative. So anyway, I just thought about that and just wanted to share it with you.
No, that's great. And I would say Marie Forleo in B School, she helped me to think about this from our industry.
Hmm.
When we think about financial events, where are they usually held?
Well, sometimes they're at restaurants.
Mm-hmm,
Sometimes they're at offices, like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Of the
I think,
companies, and
yeah, other
then
companies.
like hotels,
Yeah, hotels,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Very traditional. And you
Yeah.
kind of know what's going to happen. You're going
Hmm.
to get a picture or education on something.
Hmm.
Then the person is going to say, if you want to talk further, free consultation with me.
Yep.
Sign up for the consultation, and then you're in the pipeline to be pitched.
Yeah.
Traditional financial event.
Yeah.
She said in B School, if you can create a way to make what's traditional in your industry non-traditional and get people excited about it again, now you're setting a different tone.
Yeah.
And so that stuck with me too. I want to hold a financial event in an art museum,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Like, that would be so dope and cool and like just very different.
Yeah.
But that's how we get to do that. We get to
Yeah.
partner with Macy's and do a fashion show related to finance.
Right.
Cool stuff that gets our clients excited. Yeah, it gets us excited, but who are we serving and who would benefit from this? Our client. So definitely let your creative juices flow with who you want to partner with to get in front of your client with the budget. And you might say, I don't ever take money from one-on-one clients. I get companies to pay me to work with my clients. There's so many ways to skin this Benco cat.
Well,
All
thanks
right,
so
sir.
much. Yes,
You're
have a
welcome.
great weekend.
You as well.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.